Did I hear that right? Are you planning a trip to Dorney Park? This park was one that I didn't see talked about much, which had me curious. Since it was formerly a Cedar Fair-owned park, it is a decent place and has been well maintained and should provide for a good time. This is a ton of historical charm, so make sure to stay tuned so you can experience it all. If you followed along with my other theme park ultimate guides, then you'll be familiar with the format of these videos. I like to break them down into 3 different segments. These would be what you should do before visiting the park, what to do once your plans are locked in, and finally, what to do once you're at the park. At the end of this video, it's my goal to have you as prepared as possible to have an unforgettable visit to this historical place. Making these videos for you guys takes a lot of work, so I really appreciate all the support you're giving me. Every like, view, comment, and subscription really helps me out a lot. But if you feel like helping me out further, check out my Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can help me in my journey to bring even more of this high quality content to you guys. Later in the video, I'm going to be discussing the best times to ride the major coasters like Talon and what rows you should ride it in, so stay tuned. Let's dive in. Like most amusement parks, there are some steps you should take to prepare before visiting. This would include things like what you should wear and where you should be staying. With how crowded this park can get, following a guide like this can elevate your visit to the next level. This is where we'll be discussing park entry options as well as anything you should consider bringing with you to the park. Tip number 1, pick the right hotel for you. Fortunately, there are a decent number of hotels right next to Dorney Park, so you won't be starved for choice. If you're looking for something cheaper, Woodspring Suites Allentown is a decent place with very low prices. Everything else will be sitting most likely around the $100 to $200 range, depending on when you're planning on visiting. Tip number 2, know what to wear. I've mentioned it in other videos and I'll mention it here. You should listen to the enthusiasts when it comes to attire. This is in regards to their choice to wear cargo shorts. These come in a wide variety of designs, but the key here is that you get ones with zipper pockets. If your pockets utilize buttons, things could easily slip out. Next, you need to have comfortable shoes. There are plenty of newer brands out there making super comfortable walking or running shoes that are designed to be worn all day long. Next, a good t-shirt. This is Pennsylvania, so unless you're visiting during the winter, just go with a t-shirt all day long. It's going to be hot and humid while you're here, and there's a guaranteed chance you'll be sweating a lot, so you want a light colored t-shirt made with good materials to keep you cool. In this case, athletic shirts can actually be a good option. Once again, I really want to emphasize the importance of wearing proper shoes. While this park isn't all that large, you're going to be on your feet all day long. Tip number 3, know what to bring. As with any theme park trip that I go on, I have always found it to be a good idea to bring a small backpack. This ensures you can bring all the necessities like pain meds, hand sanitizer, small snacks, a hydro flask, and more. This is a topic I might do later, as picking the right backpack for a theme park visit is a quest I've been on for quite a while. You generally don't want to bring one that's too large and pack it full with everything you could possibly need. Dorney Park generally has somewhat longer hours, so you don't want to completely weigh yourself down. One final thing that I would recommend bringing is a portable charger. You're going to be most likely spending your entire day at the park and presumably taking a lot of photos, consulting the park app for information, or generally getting distracted by whatever it is you do on your phone. The last thing you want is to have your phone dying on you while you're still at the park. The final thing you'll want to bring is what I call a cheese rag. I personally sweat a lot, so having a rag around to wipe the sweat away is a good idea to try not to allow yourself to be too gross and sticky. Tip number 4, plan to spend one full day here. Dorney Park isn't huge, but does have a decent amount of rides on offer. It won't take you very long to get through it all, but I still highly recommend visiting for a full day so you get a chance to experience everything you might want to. Tip number 5, pick the best time to visit. Dorney Park draws in just over 1 million guests a year, and the crowd levels show it. Sometimes the lines could get longer, but the operations are at least decent on most of the rides, so you can be sure that you'll be able to get everything marked off of your to-do list. Some rides, like Wild Mouse, can get longer lines, but this is an exception to the rule. With all this being said, I'd be willing to say with full conviction that you can visit this park at just about any time of the operating season and be able to check everything off of your list. However, you'd still be best visiting during slower parts of the season. Tip number 6, use these resources to help with planning. When picking out the best day to go, there are several websites like isitpacked.com and qtimes.com, which are a great resource for helping to anticipate what crowd levels could be. Something I should note here, these websites are not 100% accurate and only give an estimation of what they think crowds will be like on a day-to-day basis. They get most of their data from historical figures, so keep this in mind when visiting them. Tip number 7, try visiting during the special events. Like most of the former Cedar Fair parks, Dorney Park puts on multiple special events throughout the operating season. These are great to visit if you're in the area while they're happening, but compared to the offerings at other parks, it may or may not be worth it to visit if you aren't local. Tip number 8, pre-purchase park entry online. Now let's go to the website. This is where you want to go to purchase your entry tickets or season passes. When buying these, it is significantly cheaper and quicker to buy them online. It helps speed up the process at the entry gate, ensuring you can get into the park early. Tip number 9, download the Dorney Park app. I will probably state this tip in just about every video. If the park has an app, you want to download it. These are great for getting not only live wait times and ride closures, but also for finding information on shows and having a digital park map. It's available on both Android and iOS, meaning unless you have a flip phone, you can download the app. These apps have a pretty decent filtering option, so you can find exactly what you need, be it restrooms, rides, restaurants, and more. Now that you've picked out when you're going and all that, we should dial in more and figure out what to do while you're at the park proper. The most important part of this section is what to do at the start of your day. You really need to plan on making the right moves so that you beat the crowds early. Tip number 10, save at least $150 to bring with you into the park. Did you know that a meal for a single person here can cost roughly $30? Having at least $150 to your name is a good idea for a single day here, so that you can pay for meals, lockers, and any additional things like snacks, on-ride photos, and souvenirs. You most likely could get by spending a lot less than this, but generally I feel like this is a fairly safe amount of money to have ready. Tip number 11, know where the best places to eat are. Here are the top 5 restaurants at Dorney Park. Number 5, Clucks and Frank's. Number 4, Amore Pizza. Number 3, Chicken Shack. Number 2, Whitewater Tavern. And finally, number 1, Iron Mill Grill and Bar. Tip number 12, know which flat rides are the best. Here are the top 5 flat rides at Dorney Park. Number 5, Whip. Number 4, Apollo. Number 3, Meteor. Number 2, Dominator. And finally, number 1, Demon Drop. Tip number 13, know which coasters are the best. Here are the top 5 roller coasters at Dorney Park. Number 5, Possessed. Number 4, Hydra the Revenge. Number 3, Steel Force. Number 2, Talon. And finally, number 1, Iron Menace. Tip number 14, make a checklist of all the things you plan on bringing with you to the park. I mentioned earlier how you should bring a small backpack filled with all the essentials you might need. I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but I can tend to be very forgetful, so having a written checklist I can consult before leaving my hotel has been a lifesaver. Make sure to write down all the things you plan on bringing with you to the park, and double check it before you leave. When I say everything, I mean everything, including the clothes on your back. You really wouldn't want to forget those. Tip number 15, either list or visually plot out your route using the park map available online or through the app. Later in the video, I'm going to give a rundown of what I believe is the ideal itinerary for how to conquer this park. Even then, I wouldn't expect you or myself to remember every detail about this plan, so make sure to visually write down what your plans are exactly so you can consult back to these. In my opinion, when you're in the meat grinder, it's always a good idea to keep a list of goals and a plan handy so that way you can stay on track. You can easily draw on the map itself by taking a screenshot of the park map with your phone and using the included markup tools available inside the default photo gallery apps. This will allow you to visually chart out your plan, or you can always use a list instead. Tip number 16, is Wildwater Kingdom worth it? If you're weird like me, then you may not be the biggest fan of water parks. For the rest of you out there, from what I can tell, Wildwater Kingdom is a decent water park with a lot of attractions on offer. This could be a great way to cool down and take things a little easier for a while. This water park isn't the best one out there, but it has the capacity to handle larger crowds and may come as a great addition to a hot, sweltering day at the park. Tip number 17, check the weather before you visit. Now, the last thing to check would be the weather. You don't want to go to the park and have it cut short by getting rained on, right? Obviously, weather predictions aren't going to be perfect, but if you take a look at the average climate for when you plan on visiting, it may give you a better gauge on how worried you should be about inclement weather. We've got most of the planning out of the way. Now is the time to put that planning to the test. Keep watching as we're about to dive into the perfect itinerary for how to absolutely master this park. If you're like me and enjoy content creation, stay tuned as I have some great recommendations for the best photo opportunities later in this section. Tip number 18, know where to cool off. Dorney Park has 3 water rides, each of which do a great job of providing ways to cool yourself off on a hot summer day. These would include Thunder Canyon, Thunder Creek Mountain, and finally, Whitewater Landing. This last one makes the biggest splash and will surely get you drenched. Tip number 19, ride the Zephyr train. If you're looking for a nice, relaxing way to take a break, consider riding the train. When it comes to amusement park locomotives, this one is quite unique and gives some decent views of the southwest side of the park. Tip number 20, follow this itinerary. Now for the important part, let's conquer this park. Compared to most other parks, you don't have to be ridiculously strategic when visiting. The lines at a lot of the rides aren't going to be super long, so riding them as you go is going to be your best bet. The one ride where this doesn't apply is Wild Mouse. This coaster has the slowest operations, and the park knows it. You may consider getting one of the single-use $30 fast passes to try to make the wait for it more bearable. The rest of the coasters can tend to stay fairly short on lines, but I would recommend hitting Talon, then Hydra next. Finally, move on to Iron Menace and clean up the rest of the coasters on that side of the park. From there, feel free to hit up any of the flat rides that you want and enjoy the rest of your stay here. Tip number 21, know which seats are the best for each ride. Of the 8 operating roller coasters at Dorney Park, only a few of them really have impactful choices as to where the best seat is. Up first is Talon. This one is a front row ride. Next, we have Hydra. It's decent in any row. Steel Force is best in the backseat for the airtime. Thunderhawk is best in the front. And finally, Iron Menace is best in the front as well. Tip number 22, know which are the best night rides. Since Dorney Park doesn't have a ton of coasters, there really isn't much in the way of choice here. Despite this, I'd say that Steel Force and Talon are the best rides to go on at night. Tip number 23, know where to refill your hydro flasks. Dorney Park doesn't really have any specific refill stations for water bottles. However, at each of the restrooms there are, and you can even refill your bottles at many of the restaurants and snack stands. Tip number 24, know the best places for dessert. Dorney Park doesn't really have much in the way of unique dessert places, but here are my favorites. Number 3, Auntie Anne's. Number 2, Old Fashioned Funnel Cake. And finally, number 1, Rita's. Tip number 25, check out these spots for taking great photos. Dorney Park, despite being as small as it is, can be very photogenic. One of the first spots I'd recommend going is right in this area next to Demon Drop. From here, you can get a decent view of Steel Force as it goes through its course. Up next is this spot between the entrance to Wildwater Kingdom and Talon. From here, you'll have to contend with trees and park guests, but you can sneak some unique views of this coaster from here. Finally, we have outside the park next to Iron Menace. Since this coaster butts right up against the parking lot, there really is no better view of it. Hopefully, after watching this video, you'll be prepared to have an unforgettable visit to this historical amusement park. Dorney Park is one that many don't talk about, but it leaves a lasting impact for those who visit. If you felt there was something I missed, make sure to leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like and comment below and hit that bell icon. Special thanks to our Patreon supporter, Future Collective. $1 a month helps me bring even more content to you guys, and I even have some exclusive content coming, so check it out. Check the description below to find links to the rest of our pages. Thanks for watching the video, and ride on, Coaster Maniacs!